What can you tell us about the group so far?
So Colento has been really dominating. Kalaxz has been pulling off some great games, but fell just short. StrifeCro is now in the losers bracket against Kalaxz. It should be really exciting. So in general, it's been a lot of warrior that's been going quite strong. We've seen some mages, but it hasn't been the strongest. It feels like, but it should be an exciting match coming up now with StrifeCro and Kalaxz.
Yeah, this group, like, as I was referring to, this is certainly the group of death. Like, I don't even care who's in the other groups. Like, it could be, like, the best players in the world, but, you know, we have Colento, probably regarded as one of the best players in the world. StrifeCro, regarded as one of the best players of the world, both on Cloud9, of course. Then we have, like, Stansifka, who's, like, a very, like, up-and-comer, and even now, even though he's only played, like, in a few tournaments, he's also regarded as one of the best in the world, even winning his own DreamHack. It's a little unfortunate that we didn't get like the rivalry of Colento versus StrifeCro in one of these matches, but the rest of the series is sure not to disappoint.
I think that basically sums up how strong the group is, that Colento and StrifeCro couldn't both make it to the winners match. We also seen Kalaxz do well. It's from the open qualifier. Now, going to game number 1 here, we are looking at Warrior versus Hunter. Believe this is, looks to be StrifeCro with the Hunter, I believe. Yeah, he was playing Hybrid Hunter and Kalaxz was playing Control Warrior. That should be quite interesting. A horrible hand for StrifeCro here starting off.
Yeah, when you're forced to play an Abusive Sergeant turn 1, you're never really too happy. So I believe Kalaxz is the Warrior player right now, and StrifeCro is the Hunter. So the overlays are bit incorrect right now, but I'm sure we'll get that fixed up right as soon as rain. Kalaxz is going to decide whether to equip this Fire War Axe. The issue here is that if he equips it now, he won't have a turn 2 play, besides possibly armoring up, unless he draws into it. But I think he's okay with that, because you just really want to stem the damage early on as the Warrior player.
The Juggler simply doesn't cut it here, so 2 for 1 for Kalaxz is looking likely.
Yeah, exactly. StrifeCro, like, you feel really bad about just throwing the Knife Juggler out there, but you have to figure that, like, he has this Fire War Axe, so if I just keep hero powering every single turn, I'm not going to develop anything, like, at all, pretty much, and his pure power is just going to completely counter mine. If he doesn't Knife Juggler here, like, what else can he do? Like, he's following the play that he didn't Knife Juggler the previous turn, so now if he even drew, like, a 3-drop, he wouldn't really have a good play either. Do you just throw the Knife Juggler here and just like completely go against what you did last turn, or do you just hero power and stick with the plan?
I think you have to go for the Juggler here. I don't see another plan. I mean, in general, Juggler is quite decent with Unleash the Hounds, but against Control Warrior, Rogue, etc., it just falls completely short. Now we have the option probably for a shield block here, as let's say he gets 2 draws before he gets to play again. So he could definitely like draw into the Death Spite, so he wants to keep the hand open for a second weapon here, but with the Paladin Sweater it might have worked out better if he'd played the weapon. So Paladin Sweater coming down for StrifeCro. Interesting to see what the follow-up is.
Yeah,
I personally prefer Paladin Sweater in this case as the Warrior.
Yeah, like, it's interesting because you don't see a lot of Pilot Shredders and a lot of Control Warriors, but, like, you've seen a lot of Dragon Control Warriors that tend to curve up a lot more with, like, Nefarian, Ysera, Alexstrasza, and 2 Blackwing Corruptors. But then you have, like, the more, like, lower curving Control Warrior, and that's the kind of warrior that top North American warrior players like Fibonacci kind of prefer to play. We got an interesting Haunted Creeper here, probably one of the better ones that StrifeCro could have hoped for. We have some B synergy, we have some stickiness on the board, so it's essentially like the exact card that Hunter wants in their deck.
It'll be interesting to see if StrifeCro has been, I guess, following Kalaxz's other games against Colento so far. I mean, as this up to now looks like it could definitely be, it could definitely be Patron. In that case, the Haunted Creeper would be horrible. But the idea behind Paladin Sweater last turn is, I mentioned in the cast earlier about the scenario where you have to keep Keeper face on turn 4 because you have a 5-drop, a 6-drop, and a 7-drop. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at right now, because now he has a 5-drop, and now the Sweater will most likely wait until maybe turn 7 or something to be played, and then he probably has another alternative to the Shredder in that case. So I think he should have played the Shredder last turn. Can now follow it up with the Belcher, but it's just not as strong. He is way ahead though, as the Unleash is quite horrible against Control Warrior.
Yeah, I feel like when you have Piloted Shredder in your deck, you want to play it on 4. I mean, why else would you have that in your deck? It's not particularly, it doesn't have like particularly enter synergies with Warrior, like the Death Rattle effect. It doesn't synergize with like an Oil Rogue perhaps. It doesn't synergize with Flame Tongue Totem. You just want the Pilot Shredder there to play on 4 because it's such a good minion on 4. And not playing it on 4, I have to agree with you there.
I mean, let's say that this was, Control Warrior versus Control Warrior. It might have been way better to, just kinda, I guess, go for the axe, just absorb the damage. You'll go into the late game anyway. 8 health isn't a big deal, but the Shredder in the late game might do, good work. So I think, but in this very aggressive scenario, it's not as good. No, I think this should be just an easy Shield Maiden here. Gotta say, it'd be interesting to see if he not runs a Whirlwind. I don't think he does. But in general, the difference between Dragon Warrior and I guess the more conventional Control Warrior is that the Dragon Warrior seems to be more of an all-rounder, while the Control Warrior seems to be more of a hard counter to Hunter, Freeze Mage, and Patron Warrior. Often running 2 Brawlers, in fact.
Yeah, I actually don't see the standard Control Warrior even running too many Whirlwinds anymore. Simply because, like, for one, Paladin is not as common as it used to be, and I guess like they're more willing to go for cards like Piloted Shredders and just like having like the Warrior curve out a bit more rather than just fitting in all these like tiny tech cards in. What do you think about this like attack into Freezing Trap? I think like if you just throw the Shield Maiden down and have the Sludge Belcher on the board, do you think maybe that forces your opponent to go for one of the kills on one of your minions?
I think in this particular case, it's a desperate situation with StrifeCro. He will need to go only face for the entirety of the game now. So I guess the idea is, one less target for Unleash, one less target, I guess, for the bow, one less trap for the bow, I mean. So, let's say that he had kept it. He could have gone for the Unleash at least and gotten 2 dogs out of it instead of 1. I think here actually getting 1 dog is possibly playable.
Yeah, like especially if you draw into a quick shot, for example. Like the dogs are just horrible.
Absolutely. Thinking here you kill the owl actually.
Okay, for the
I don't know.
For the beast energy.
Yeah, I'd say like owl and Belcher. I like here.
So from Kalaxz's position, he's actually like, looking at his side of the board, he's like thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna be dead really soon. But if he can see StrifeCro's hand, I think he'd be pretty happy right now. I don't see StrifeCro being able to finish this game off anytime soon unless a kill command is drawn immediately or something like a quick shot wouldn't be like even that amazing here because he has those 2 clunky Unleash the Hounds in his hand.
Absolutely. It feels, doesn't really fit well together to go for the shield block here. I mean, what is he gonna do with 4 mana now? This seems actually a lot of pain. What did he think about drawing into? Like Alexstrasza, I guess, but still, I definitely don't like that idea. I think you have to hero power and be consistent in that case. Overall, oh wow, this actually, he might need to go for it here. Yeah, just drop the juggler and go for the Unleash.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a lot of anti-synergy here when you have the Acolyte of Pain on the board.
I mean, I think in this case, it's going to be more about the mana than actually the card quality, as I think StrifeCro figures that, Kalaxz will have all the cards he could possibly ever need.
Like, what do you think StrifeCro can even draw in the future turns in order to actually get this game out of the rut that he's in, basically?
It's gonna need to be a quick shot, I think, into maybe kill command. It's hard to say, really. I mean, something like Loatheb would be amazing, but I'm not sure he even runs that in this deck. Yeah. We've seen, Paladin Shredder at least, so maybe there's Savannah or something in there, but I think Savannah would actually be weaker than like a Glaive Sukka, possibly.
Yeah.
But the idea, I think, here behind going for the Unleash is, you do 2 damage with the hero power and the Unleash, you may hit 1 to face or something, but it's mainly also for the possibility of going for the quick shot earlier.
Yeah. Now, if he draws in something like a quick shot or a kill command, he has something to combo it with the Unleash the Hounds. And like you said, he needs a whirlwind right now. Kalaxz needs a whirlwind in order to kind of get out of this position. Like if he doesn't clear off these minions off the board, they just keep getting damage in over and over again. And like you can't really clear off 5 minions off your opponent's side of the board one by one as the warrior player without like a Baron Geddon or a whirlwind effect. And even if you have Baron Geddon, you're still dead.
I think in this position it would at least be worth it to think about going for Shieldmaiden and executing the juggler after attacking in.
I think he already attacked in with the juggler or with.
Yeah, I'm thinking like instead of attacking the abusive sergeant, going for the juggler with the Acolyte of Pain there.
Yeah.
But StrifeCro does take game number 1.
Yeah.
He looked to be really in a lot of trouble, but with some minor errors from Kalaxz, and he didn't draw the Alexstrasza as well, so things kind of fell apart there.
Yeah, I have to say, it's really interesting because StrifeCro got a really weak starting hand. Of course, Kalaxz got the Fire War Axe, and StrifeCro didn't really have anything to respond to it. Plus, StrifeCro drew into double Unleash the Hounds, which actually isn't standard in Hybrid Hunter. When you're playing Hybrid Hunter, more typically, these days, you're running only 1 Unleash the Hounds and like 2 Wolf Riders, for example. So that was kind of like a tech choice by StrifeCro, and it didn't end up paying off dividends, but it was enough in this game. So if StrifeCro later on in the next series, if he moves on to face off against Sansifka, and Sansifka is playing more of like an aggressive lineup, then he'll be in a good position there.
esportsbets.com, the service where gamers will bet real money on virtual events. Only here, the best odds and widest coverage of games from Dota 2 to Hearthstone.
We have over 200,000 users registered.
Join us. Prove that you are the best versed in esports. Who will get the first blood? Who will take the first Roshan? Who will win the knife round? Participate in the race of predictors and earn real money. The more bids, the more bonuses. Reward for your first deposit up to $600. esportsbets.com. Foresight, passion, and calculation.
So going to game number 2 now, we have Kalaxz on the Shaman. I guess what looks to be a Mali lock from StrifeCro again.
Yeah, it's this has become such a popular deck. We saw a DreamHack over this the last weekend. Pretty much everyone was playing it, and during the last Liquid Hearth Power Ranks, StrifeCro actually rated Malygos Lock as the #1 deck, even over Patron Warrior. Can you believe that?
Definitely after seeing DreamHack, yeah, that was quite crazy to see how well the deck did. I played, I believe I played, 4 out of the 7 people I played had the Mali lock. I think the main thing is that people aren't confident enough in Rogue to play it at the moment. So Rogue is really strong against this Mali lock, but a lot of other classes do really struggle, especially aggro, as there's, Mortal Coils, there's the Zombie Chow, Dark Bomb, heals, taunts, you have everything you need.
Yeah, and not only that, but I feel like it's possibly like one of the best counters in the game to Handlock, which has become so popular because Handlock is a deck that really tends to counter Patron Warrior. So it's kind of this cycle where I think Malygos Warlock is kind of in the exact right position. But then again, if Malygos Lock becomes really popular, then we can have decks like Rogue, as you mentioned, coming back, cycling back into the metagame. And perhaps even perhaps Shaman cycling back? What do you think about this deck? Kalaxz really playing outside of the box right here, bring Shaman to a competitive environment.
We've seen once or twice over the weekend. Hawkeye did really well. He made top 8 with mid Shaman. I believe he actually went 6-0 in the early stages of the Swiss tournament, so he did really well. Kind of a hard play here, I have to say. He's thinking about just implosion. Okay. Hits for 3, not bad, not bad. But overall, we're looking at 4 mana. Seems to be kind of an easy turn.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is you had the Fire Guard Destroyers that everyone really liked when it came out. Everyone was like, oh my god, this is going to be like the next Shaman card. But after Fire Guard Destroyer was released, a lot of top Shaman players, for example, like 11.5 feet, he's a top Shaman player. He actually said, no, you don't want to play this card. Piloted Shredder is actually better. It has more synergies with Shaman because of the Death Rattle effect with Defender of Argus, with Flame Tongue Totem. Plus, it doesn't overload you into a crucial turn 5. And like Shaman, it has so many good turn 5 options like Azure Drake and Lotheb that you really don't want to overload that turn. But Kalaxz's solution to that is, hey, why not run both of these cards so I can go into a 4-drop into a 4-drop, and it's like one of the strongest like turn 4 into turn 5 plays you can do as Shaman.
I really have to agree with that. It feels like, you know, it's only the Max Shaman where the Fire Guard really shines, as, you know, then you can keep on playing more and more 4-drops over and over. It's quite interesting in that case. I mean, as people often want to play 3 4-drops, and what's the third one going to be? Usually actually Yeti, if it's not something like a Kazan. I've played sometimes, you know, I've sometimes gone for the third 4-drop as the Yeti. You know, when you find a hard counter, let's say Warrior or Priest or something like that. So I've done it in Paladin and through it. It's kind of an interesting scenario, but I'd definitely play the Fire Guard if I had the option.
Yeah, now it looks like this is kind of a decent Lightning Storm turn.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but what do you do? Do you combo that with a Feral Spirits, with just a Totem, with a Hex? You have to think right now that Kalaxz, he's thinking my opponent really wants to get me low enough so he can do that combo, and he wants to stall out the game. And Lightwell, that's actually, I would say that's a pretty good one, right? Healing himself possibly. Yeah. And that's gonna tank even more damage. I think StrifeCro is definitely gonna want to kill that as soon as possible, just so it doesn't heal him, and just so it like the Lightwell doesn't put him out of the range of a Malygos combo.
Definitely, I think his main idea is he didn't want to be overloaded because he could go for a turn 7 Dr. Boom. A strong play there. So I think if he didn't have a Dr. Boom, he would have probably been leaning more towards the Lightning Storm in this case. Now Lotheb is down. He's gonna tap. Thinking probably about the Argus, I'd say. Maybe killing the Lightwell? Doesn't seem too bad, yeah.
I would definitely be a fan of that. Also, protecting your Imp Gang boss seems pretty good in this position. Like the Lotheb just gets such an easy trade here into your Imp Gang boss. And you really force your opponent to, if he has a Lightning Storm, to use it. If he has a Dr. Boom, you're still happy about that because of the BGH in your hand.
That's true here. But now after the BGH is done, there's no huge Shadow Flame, but there is no, I'm talking about after the Dr. Boom is out, the BGH will be available. Second BGH here for Kalaxz. Kind of an awkward state here.
The second BGH, or the BGH from Kalaxz, is actually going to be completely useless because typically in this deck there are no 7 attack minions or higher. Kalaxz, or rather StrifeCro, is known for a player that plays like pretty standard decks. He sometimes make his own home brews, but if he's like kind of like net decking one of the popular decks, more likely than not, he's going to be playing exactly what he's played on stream. So if Kalaxz did his research, he's going to know exactly every single card in StrifeCro's deck, and he's not going to be afraid to play the BGH just as a 4/2 minion.
I was playing the East Legendary series about a month ago, and it was kind of interesting. I was playing that handlock with 2 Moltens. No, the demon lock with 2 Moltens. The people playing back then with like Malygos and Mal'Ganis, am I saying here? It was kind of interesting. There was actually a guy playing his own deck, like playing StrifeCro's deck against StrifeCro. And the guy playing the StrifeCro deck actually won as he played it. He got an extra idea on top of that. So it's kind of interesting to see, you know, when you make your own decks and then you face them again, and if that actually has an effect on your playstyle.
I mean, how many times has Reynad been defeated by Zoo? I'll just leave it at that.
Countless times, yeah. But looking at this, is Hellfire gonna be a good option here? Thinking maybe like Dark Bomb Mortal Coil after having used the Twilight Drake. That's also a possibility. We see no Earthshock at least in hand for Kalaxz.
Yeah, I feel like Hellfire, like, you just don't get that much value from this board off of Hellfire. And Shaman typically, like, they want to flood the board a lot. So like that Hellfire might be useful later on. So I like this play where StrifeCro, he's valuing his Hellfire more, and he's noticing that I already have minions on the board, so I don't necessarily need to use this Hellfire as soon as possible, and just going for the single target removal.
It seems strong. I'm a bit worried though about, I guess, keeping the Loatheb alive. Well, I guess you can coin the Dark Bomb out, but there's a lot of burst potential with I guess the Doomhammer in this case, but there's no Rockbite or Doomhammer or anything like that. No, Dr. Doom still hasn't come down. Not the Firely either.
Yeah, I mean, double Overload was used this turn, or last turn, so I'm sure Kalaxz is wishing he had like a Lava Shock in his deck, but that's not typically a card that you see being teched into a lot of Shaman decks. That was also another card that people were kind of hyping up, but right now it just seems it gets like little to no use these days, because it's so rare that you have these situations where you can get so much value off of that.
Yeah, I think he may have maybe gone too hastily into that Overload. He's got nothing here to do. I mean, Hex on the Astral Drake is could be horrible, I'd say. Is worth throwing away the Flame Tongue? Seems to be one of his win conditions, I guess, if he draws the Alakir. We saw that against Colento, him winning with the Alakir there. It looks like he is gonna trade and Hero Power.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, this matchup feels like a matchup where board control is just like the most important thing ever. If either side loses board control for even a single turn, the problem is like the opponent can just like do too much damage to your opponent's to your face basically. And if the Shaman ever gets low, like in the 15 to 20 range, he's gonna be afraid of a Malygos combo. If the Warlock gets too low, he's gonna be afraid of like an Alakir Rockbiter or a Doomhammer Rockbiter combo, or even some kind of Spell Power or Lava Burst Crackle combo. So I think it's the first player that loses the board control is gonna like completely get shut out of this game. And right now, because of the overload that Kalaxz was facing in the previous turn, he looks like to be the one that is going to be playing from behind.
Yeah, it feels in this scenario it's kind of when you're playing Shaman against Warlock that the Shaman has a higher card quality, but you get so many more cards with the hero power from Warlock, so you kind of make up for that. But yeah, StrifeCro seems to be dominating this game too here.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess this is one of the problems with Shaman. Like, to be honest though, I have no idea how this matchup plays out, because this is honestly the first time that I've ever seen this matchup. Shaman is a deck that was really popular previously, or mid-range Shaman at least, but it hasn't seen much use lately. Whereas Malygos Warlock is kind of a completely new deck, so it's kind of like the battle between the olds and the new here, and the new is certainly winning out. Wow, what is this? Jiraxxus? Okay, so I'm gonna throw everything out there. Like, StrifeCro, I just said he typically net decks, but you know what? Like, this is kind of a new spin on that Malygos deck. He adds Jiraxxus into his deck. I don't know, I haven't been watching too much of StrifeCro streaming lately, but this is certainly a surprise for me.
Yeah, we saw this earlier. The thinking is that it's probably for the Warrior and the control matchups. Also, I guess okay against Hunter maybe as a, you know. But I'm thinking maybe Alexstrasza might be as good, if not better, because it's also a dragon. Now, looking at this turn, doesn't have too much he could do. I think he might maybe like just even Twilight Healbot and just go face, ignoring the Firelay. Is that a possibility? I mean, Soulfire looks really juicy. Guess you could go for the Soulfire. I mean, the card quality isn't the highest.
Okay, it's interesting that he goes for the okay, so he goes for this Healbot instead of the oh wow, Malygos is discarded. Wow. So Kalaxz, from his perspective, he's like, wow, like if I stabilize, do I just win the game? But we all know that Jiraxxus has a second win condition in Jiraxxus. So I think because of the misinformation that Kalaxz has, not knowing that StrifeCro has Jiraxxus in his deck, I think he's going to play differently now. He's going to play extremely defensively, and he's going to assume that if he plays defensively and is able to kind of stall out the game, he's going to win out of the long run, when we both know that's not true.
Yeah, it feels a bit iffy in the scenario right now. You know, seeing StrifeCro, I guess, not tap before playing a card. You know, he didn't tap before, and actually, I guess, gave him fewer options Yeah, so he may be getting a bit tired. It's possible. It's been a long day here. From this position, I think just hero powering and going to top him is the way to go. I feel like this Mount Totem will die too easily.
I think you just, like, at this point, Kalaxz, like, with the mindset that we had, Kalaxz is thinking, I just have to cycle through my deck, get to my board clears as fast as possible, and just try to stabilize. And if I stabilize, I win.
Yes, it's possible, yeah. So it's kind of like a novice engineer almost with 0 damage, you know. We do have the BGH coming down. Maybe just with the Twilight Drake, but if he's going for the Twilight Drake, he should probably attack in first. Attack in first into the bomb, then tap, then Twilight Drake, I'd say.
Yeah. And
actually Immortal Coiled as well before, yeah. I mean...
Yeah, why not, right? You don't want this BGH to die. And what we've seen lately in a lot of these Shaman decks, like for example, Hawkeye's deck, he mentioned that he only had 1 Lightning Storm in his deck because he didn't think it was very useful. Like, it's like, you want, as Shaman, you want to take control of the board and just keep it and not take control back of the board. But in this matchup, in this situation, it's if Kalaxz only has 1 Lightning Storm, as a lot of Shamans do these days, he's gonna be in dire straits trying to come back here.
I actually want to mention now, I've actually played a Hawkeye with the Shaman on stream over this weekend, and we were looking at what he'd played so far, and we'd seen 2 games of mid Shaman, and in both of them he had played a Lightning Storm in the first 15 cards. So we assumed that he was playing 2 of them. So that's actually news to me that he's playing 1 of them. That's quite cool. So he must have drawn them really early on. Yeah, in both cases. Now, this is, I guess, the classic scenario where you just tap, right?
You have to be thinking here, like, do you think this is in any way possible that fatigue could matter onto this, or does StrifeCro's hand is just so too good right here?
Yeah, I mean, this just feels so hopeless, like it often does with when you're playing against the Mali lock. Malikus is gone at least, so maybe his win condition is dwindling out. But you usually actually finish off the whole deck. We saw that when StrifeCro won last time with this one, it came down to fatigue. Again, he taps last. It's really odd.
Yeah, certainly. And you know what, StrifeCro is seeing, you didn't have Lightning Storm last turn, so why would you have it this turn? And he's certainly right. Once again, Kalaxz is gonna have like a ton of trouble clearing this board here. He can go for the Alec here and just clear off as much as possible. And I think that's a definite possibility since, number one, all his other options look terrible. And he also has the mindset that I just have to grind this game out right now because my opponent doesn't have his win condition of Malygos anymore. And he doesn't have any other win conditions, not knowing about the Jiraxxus. Another possibility is just like to play the BGH on board, to totem, perhaps either play the Argus, but perhaps play the anti-heal bot. And I think you can do that because the BGH, you know your opponent, you almost know for certain that your opponent doesn't have any BGH targets, so you might as well play it as a 4-2. But then again, you have to be thinking this board is really bad it's really good for trading into the 4-2.
Yeah, it seems at this point it's hit the rough spot where he's just out of cards, and any good players at least. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna go all downhill. I'd say it'll take a miracle for him to come back. He's gonna have to play the BGH on board.
Perhaps he's thinking that perhaps StrifeCro teched in something like a Dr. Boom or a Melganis, and BGH on either of those cards could be what swings the game around.
Yeah, it's a very new deck, so maybe he hasn't played against it too much so far. This is quite interesting. He's still drawing. Yeah, he's just way ahead on value. Thinking how this goes. Yeah. At this point, he may start wanting to get rid of some imps to play more quality cards here.
Yeah, once again, drawing dead. Like, to be honest though, what could Kalaxz really draw at this point? One of the problems with Shaman is that it doesn't have a lot of draw effects. It doesn't have like a sprint, it doesn't have battle rage, it doesn't even have like Ancient of Lore or Lay on Hands. It's basically going to be drawing one card max every single turn with any of the cards that it draws from its deck. So when you're in this position as Shaman, there's like almost no way to come back.
Absolutely, it seems to be the problem with Shaman was too much RNG in the cards and no good card draw. In reality, cards like I guess Crackle and Lightning Storm not being as consistent, you know, as the other AOE we've seen in case of like Hellfire or yeah, even Shadow Flame. But I'm looking at this, it's really gonna go quite long into the late game. It's
I think like it might seem like this game is going on pretty slowly, but I think it's gonna end pretty quickly in the next few turns, simply because with the Emperor, and then we can combo that with the Jiraxxus into like a Jiraxxus plus Infernal turn, and from that I think Kalaxz is gonna instantly concede unless he draws into the Harrison. Another possibility is StrifeCro is gonna hold back on the Jiraxxus because Harrison Jones into Jiraxxus is probably one of the only ways he can come back right now.
I'm mostly surprised that Kalaxz is still in the game at this point. Yeah, it's looking so rough for him.
Yeah, like at this point in the game, in Conquest especially, you're going to be the one that's going to be replaying the Shaman deck, not StrifeCro. So at this point, you're giving your opponent more information. So at some point, you might, like as Kalaxz, you might be thinking, when is it better? When do I have like no chance at all? And when should I stop giving my opponent information? And if you're a player like Firebat, Firebat actually just concedes almost immediately when he gets in a terrible position. For example, like I've seen him concede instantly with Freeze Mage into Control Warrior, which I don't believe is completely a 100% matchup.
Yeah, that was actually against my teammate Fresh, I believe, in the KPL, an interesting scenario. We prepared a lot for that match. It was a lot of fun, but it definitely did tilt him, and he lost that series 3-0, so that may have had an effect there. So StrifeCro going up 2-0 in this one. We're going to go to the final match here. Wondering what the Kalaxz can do, because you need to win with the Shaman at least once.
Yeah, that's the problem, and I believe StrifeCro, he still has Patron Warrior left, right?
Not entirely sure. I think it's Warrior, yeah.
Okay, and I believe like StrifeCro, he really doesn't play, he's not really much of a Control Warrior player. He's way more of a Patron Warrior player. We've seen him play it a lot on his stream, and to be honest, every top player these days is going for that Patron Warrior. And if indeed it is going to be the Patron Warrior, Kalaxz is going to have an extremely hard time, especially with that Shaman deck. We've seen Hawkeye, he said on stream before, like I said, with his Shaman deck, he just wanted to avoid Patron Warrior because that's like an auto loss basically.
Absolutely in this case here. So looking at how the standings is going, the winner of this will go on to play Sivka for the final slot here in the top 8.
Yeah, if StrifeCro moves on, it's going to be a rematch, and it's going to be whether Sivka can really like go into the tier of the top players. Like to be honest, like the tier of top players right now is like Kalento, Life Coach, Firebat, and StrifeCro. But
Sivka,
yeah, and Sivka is like, I feel like he's almost at that cusp, even though he's a newer player. So it's going to be a pretty huge win if he can defeat StrifeCro twice, if it comes to that situation.
Yeah, it often comes with these players that jump right into the thick of it by winning a huge tournament. We've seen that with Orange, you know, who has won 2 amazing tournaments, but you know, hasn't done as well, you know, in some other tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see how consistent Sivka is. They've been doing an excellent job so far. Yeah, but going to game number 3, we have Flamemaker Mage for StrifeCro against what looks to be a Manilock as well for Kalaxz.
Are you sure? Because we've been seeing like this power overwhelming in this deck. It feels like more like a combo lock to me.
Interesting to see Belcher in that even, yeah.
Yeah.
We have Hellfire as well.
Yeah, so this probably reminds me of like an Arcane Golem, Faceless Manipulator, Power Overwhelming combo lock that threatens to OTK the opponent. We've seen this kind of being popular back when I believe Zalay kind of innovated it in the ESL Legendary series. All the way back like 3 or 4 months ago, and it was one of the reasons he was picked up by Team Archon.
Absolutely. Now looking at the Alto, that might be really decent later on in the game. Not a bad unstable portal at all there. Now nothing of value coming down. Looks just like a standard trade. This hand, yeah, starting out with the Antonidas is quite rough for StrifeCro.
Yeah, so StrifeCro is going to be playing this Tempo Mage, and he got this list from a player named Hyunher, who reached #2 legend on NA with this list. He's played it a lot on stream, and I guess he's deciding that this is a pretty good deck. And I've seen this deck, like StrifeCro was one of the first players to use Mech Mage in tournaments, and he actually won the finals of a tournament, the Kingwood for Charity tournament, 4-0. He swept it with Mech Mage. So I think because he has a tendency to really like Mech Mage, this is kind of like Mech Mage 2.0, so I'm certainly not surprised to see him playing this deck as well.
Gotta agree with that, yeah. It's almost impressive though how high a curve is drawn so far in this game, because usually you have, you know, a Mana Worm into a Sorcerer Apprentice, into a lot of speed, but yeah, not a good draw for Kalaxz either, no 4-drop here. He has a solid follow-ups for the next 4 or 5 turns here, though. But a Mirror Entity would be brutal here.
Yeah. So the Aldor Peacekeeper, it's kind of a hit or miss, and the issue here is it typically doesn't have a lot of targets in a Malygos Warlock deck, because they don't run like Mal'Ganis, they don't run Dr. Boom. But actually, like if Dr. Boom comes down here from Kalaxz, it'll be pretty useful. But the real question is, will StrifeCro be insightful enough to actually save the Aldor Peacekeeper for that Dr. Boom target?
Yeah, I think he may have wanted to play the Cobalt a bit earlier even. It's looking a bit interesting here. We have at least the Time Rewinder. That might be excellent on the Altor, I'd say. Possibly way later on the heal bot, but now we see the Altor coming down, probably with a trade, right?
Yeah, Tempo Aldor, here we go. So StrifeCro, I think that it partially might be because of StrifeCro's hand right now. He's seeing Archmage and Tinnitus in his hand, which means that given like on turn 8, it'll probably be something like Antonidas into the Time Rewinder. So it's very possible that on turn 9 or 10, the game could be over there. So StrifeCro going for definitely more of the tempo-based plays instead of the control-y plays where you save the Aldor for the eventual Dr. Boom. And I also think it speaks a bit more to the nature of this deck being a way more aggressive deck in this matchup.
Yeah, well, I've gotta love the idea of going for the Yeti instead of the Atladric. It's primarily because he figures Hellfire plus Mortal Coil is more common. But now, turn 7, is it possible to go for Dr. Boom? It's a bit risky seeing how passively StrifeCro has played. I mean, there aren't many other options. Maybe Belcher, but that seems overly passive, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only 2 options here for me that... The 2 options that I like are either the Dr. 7 or perhaps the Emperor, in order to just like get out all your combo pieces as fast as possible and like try to catch up later on in future turns. What Emperor enables is, like, for example, a Sledge Belcher on the next turn, and then perhaps an Implosion. You can even use Time Rewinder with that if you perhaps get a heal bot later on.
I have to agree with that, yeah. But now, looking, this is going for the Emperor, okay. Could be interesting to see if he gets the Arcane Golem, I believe, or the Leroy. Probably the Arcane Golem, right, in this sort of deck. Yeah,
I would probably say Arcane Golem, but the issue here is he needs both the Arcane Golem and the Faceless Manipulator, and he's not going to get both in the next turn, and he's going to be able to use both with the amount of mana that he has.
I'm thinking the Time Reminder might actually be pretty good in this case here, with the possibility of the Arcane Golem. But I think Antonidas has to come down. I don't see another play working out.
I think the question with right here is how much face are you gonna go? Because it's very possible that StrifeCro could just ignore this Emperor Thorzain. Number one, he doesn't have a really good way to clear it besides Fireball, which means if you do Fireball here, you don't get to play your Archmage Antonidas. So if he goes for the Archmage turn here, I think he's just going to get 3 Fireballs and go all for face here and hope to win the game, because his opponent, he's already shown 1 heal bot, so it's not very likely that he has a second heal bot and he's going to be able to heal off all this damage coming from all the Fireballs.
Yeah, I have to agree. Even replaying a Mirror Entity might be okay. Mirror Image, I mean, yeah, that might be okay for the 4th Fireball. Wouldn't mind that. But now, with the second possibility of using the Sorcerer Apprentice, this might just get really out of hand. I mean, we've seen, I guess, the Hysteria games where you play 4 of them at the same time and just have a Fireball factory going on. But I think the 4th one over the Time Rewinder, going for the 4th Fireball, would have been the better play in this case. 3 Fireballs are very likely to still seal the game in either case. Going for Implosion over Boucher. That's interesting.
So Implosion gets rid of at least 3 damage, plus I think one reason he used Implosion is because he knows his opponent has at least 2 Fireballs in his hand. So if he has even more burst, it could kind of get a lot more dangerous, especially with the Azure Drake already on the field.
I have to agree with that. This is getting, yeah, I think in this case you just completely dive. He's maybe worried a bit about your access if he's been paying attention so far, but yeah. Wait, yeah, this is so close. It's so close.
So let's count the damage we have right here. If StrifeCro goes for the double Fireball, that's 14 plus the Azure Drake, that's 18. So he's 3 off lethal on the next turn, which means that unless Kalaxz has the anti heal bot in his hand, then StrifeCro just wins immediately here.
I kind of would like to see 1 Fireball, 1 ping onto the face. Wouldn't mind that. Possibly even a Flame Cannon if it hits the Emperor would be nice, but... This is interesting. He has to go for 1, right? Yeah.
Okay, so a bit more of the defensive play. By getting rid of these Emperor Thorzain, first of all, you're guaranteed to get rid of it because there's only 1 target left.
The idea over here, I guess, would be to play around your axes. That's why he doesn't go for the second Fireball. He figures he can cast 2 next turn anyway and get a ping, an extra ping out of that. So this looks to be just about over. Yeah. He knows there's 2 Fireballs in hand at least.
Did StrifeCro play the Fireball that he got naturally from his deck? I believe he did.
Possible. Yeah, Siphon Soul though, it's not gonna be enough.
Yeah, so Kalaxz is just hoping, please don't have the second Fireball, please don't have the second Fireball. But from our perspective, we already know that StrifeCro is going to take the series 3-0.
Well played to him, so he will now face Stan Sivka in a rematch for the last slot in round of 8, so the qualified player Kalaxz is sadly out, but looks to be really disappointed. He probably fought really hard for that slot in the open qualifier. I hope we see more from him coming up soon here.
Yeah, but StrifeCro, he kind of deservedly goes to the next round, and he's gonna fight for the title of his throne in kind of like the top 4, the top 5 of Hearthstone royalty. He's gonna face Stan Sivka, a challenger who already beat him before, and it's gonna be the same thing all over again.
Indeed, here I think we'll come down to the priest game again. As Stan Sivka was playing that priest, if he can get a win with that, I think he would probably be favored. He was playing, I believe it was, he was playing warrior, I believe, and the Echo